And we are up. The Our Town Podcast, episode number 19, coming to you from Madison, Alabama. And every day is a hot day in the summer here. Although it kind of today started out like a little bit cool, I guess. And then you come out for lunch if you haven't really stepped outside. And you step out at lunchtime, like, holy smokes, it heated up. And someone who's sitting before me, Miss Lauren is it Gowins or Gowins?
Gowins.
Gowins is no stranger to the heat.
No, and it's funny that you say that. So I heard it best described is, when you're preheating the oven,
Yeah.
When you're ready to pop that pizza in.
Yeah.
And you open it up and that big gush of hot air comes at you. That's exactly what it feels like going outside in Alabama. But no stranger to the heat.
We typically will do that in the wintertime. We'll just leave the oven open just to kind of add some additional heat to the space.
Oh, yeah.
And the other day, someone left it open. I'm like, what are you thinking? It's either just habitual and they just are used to doing that after making a pizza or something. Like, it's 99 degrees out. We don't need any more heat.
You just want that
house.
hot pizza smell still.
Yeah. Lauren and I were talking before we came on the air. Shout out to Jonathan Fowler, episode number 7 on the Our Town Podcast. And he owns Fow Wow Designs. And this is, I think, a new design, Montesano.
Love it. He does great work.
I wore the Montesano Mountain Dew themed shirt in episode 11 when Tori, at Tori on the Radio from ZYP interviewed me. And, of course, as my first name's Monty, I will wear anything that says Montesano.
We need to get you a Monty Python shirt.
Well, that's the British spelling.
Oh, okay.
But I will take it.
Okay, good.
And later, let's not jump to it right now, but later we'll talk about how you went to school at Montevallo or Montevallo in Birmingham or south of Birmingham.
Yep, south of Birmingham. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I peeked out when I saw on like your LinkedIn, your school, your education history. I was like, oh, Montevallo.
Yeah.
So Lauren Gowins, give some context right away to how I kind of came across you.
Yeah, so I was watching one of your other episodes with Clayton Hinchman, who's the CEO and founder of Ignite.
Mm-hmm.
Clayton's a dear friend of mine. He has become a really valuable business mentor, and I appreciated him getting us connected together. I really enjoyed his episode and then his following episode, and then kind of dived into the other ones and was really impressed.
That's awesome. Yeah, he I think following that as well, he or either Joe Denoto, who works for him, Dr. Joe, gave me a kind of a short list of, hey, these would be some really good guests, and you got to reach out. It was kind of like a mandate. You must reach out to Lauren. You have to, like, number one priority. So I did, and I think I probably met with you the very next day.
Yeah, no. And I told him, I was like, no one wants to hear what I have to say.
Everybody says that, but guess what? We could probably talk 4 hours. Just based on what you shared with me and kind of some of the Q&A that I do with any kind of guest to get to know them. And you certainly have a interesting background for someone who hasn't lived that many years.
Yeah.
You have you
appreciate that.
You definitely definitely have some experience.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I'm very happy about it and very humbled by the experience that I have this short in life.
I want to start with the Bold Agency.
Yeah.
And I want to start with the logo, which we can see, and all the screens that we show on the software here. It has the Bold Agency, which is a very simple, it's just the text.
Yep.
Can you talk about that and specifically, and whoever helped you come up with that, was there also any sort of lobbying for just kind of a picture or an easy icon, an illustration, if you will? Right.
Yeah. So the name Bold Agency came, as all great ideas do, in the shower. And, I went through a period of time, a 1-year non-compete, where I wasn't allowed to do anything in my field. Mm-hmm. And was kind of thinking, well, when I get out, what am I going to do, essentially? And was humbled by a couple opportunities that were I was approached with, but nothing kind of felt like this is really what I want to do. And so I thought, well, shoot, everyone else starts a company and they seem to do it okay. So then maybe I can try. And was thinking about the name and what I really wanted to represent. And people who know me know that I am a type 3 overachiever. I'm very candid, very transparent. Mm-hmm. I have no filter. Wish I did. And so everything that we do in our work, I want to be a reflection of that. And so I was thinking about the name of the agency, and my values are very ingrained in candidness and transparent relationships with our clients and our team members. And I was like that at my previous company. And the feedback was that's a lot of the reason why customers liked working in contact directly with me. So I was like, well, what is just one word, one word that I can help really contextualize what I want this agency to be. And I want to be bold. I want the work to be bold and what we do in our relationships with our clients to be bold, but I don't want us to be showy. So the logo itself is very, like you said, it's just text-based. And our colors are black, white, and my favorite color is turquoise, so I had to put that in there too. But that is, I would be perfectly happy with everything that we do, just highlighting our clients, and not necessarily us. So the name Bold Agency came because of the work that we do and the work that I want to keep doing. But as far as us, I want to make sure that, we're just behind the scenes. Our clients are the forefront.
What about just using an agency versus company versus group?
So in our industry, there are, it gets confusing because people are like, well, you're a marketing agency, you're an advertising agency, you're a creative agency, what are you? There's so many different types of terminology that can be used. Agency was what I wanted to pull from kind of examples that I found out in our industry. I felt like it best represented the creative side that we are, rather than like a solutions company or, something like that. We are a strategic creative agency. We're a smaller knit group of people, but we still do really good work.
Okay. And you've had it 3 years now, is that right?
Yeah. We're fresh. We're only a little over 3 years old.
Okay. So let's pause there. And now let's kind of go back to the beginning. Meaning, I know there's going to be some interesting places you lived, but you started in Washington, D.C. You were born there.
Yeah.
And how long were you there? Where did you live? Did you live in D.C.? Were you in Virginia, Maryland?
Oh, gosh. Can I phone my mom? I'm kidding.
Phone a friend, right?
Phone a friend. I don't remember much of D.C. I know that in our family pictures, we were only there for a little bit.
Okay.
And then moved probably straight after that. I don't think I was that old. I think I was like 3.
Okay. And where did you move to?
So I don't remember it in the right order. But I know that we moved from DC. We were in St. Louis, Missouri for a bit. We moved to New Delhi, India, and we were in Qatar, Doha for a while. Moved back to the States. Again, this is probably not the right order. Moved to Birmingham, Alabama, oddly enough, and then moved to Dubai in the UAE. And that's kind of where my family planted roots for a very long time. My parents in total were there for 16 or 17 years. And I graduated high school there, and so did my sister.
So you're like 10 or 11 when you kind of land and establish roots there?
I was in early middle school.
Okay. So 12, 13 years old.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. That's a lot of moving around before you kind of...
Everyone asked me, I was like, oh, were your parents military? And I'm like, no, but it sure did feel like it.
Yeah.
Moving that often when I was young, I get a boyfriend and then have to break up with the boyfriend and like, oh, my friends, and the world's ending. And now reflecting back on it, I was really thankful to have those opportunities.
Right. So talk about your parents and what they did.
Yeah, so...
Your dad was in kind of like construction, project management, and your mom was in marketing?
Yeah, so my dad is a project manager on several construction projects. He's kind of bounced around that position, but mostly stayed within that field. And then my mom started off in marketing at, she worked for the Summit, owned by Bear Properties in Birmingham when we lived there, and then went on to teaching. And so she ended up being the chair at one of the universities in Dubai.
What kind of projects, how big are these construction sites? Or these it was a residential, commercial?
Well, gosh. So he started off doing things like Air Force bases and working on projects like that through BL Harbert. And then he, in Dubai, I think one of the bigger ones that he worked on was I think it's called the Marvel Universe in Dubai. And that one was a huge project, but he's worked on both commercial and residential projects.
Okay. So I'm going to switch over here. So I've had some improvements here in the studio. And in each episode, I was mentioning to you a little bit before we got started, but I drive myself crazy with the new improvements that I try to make each week. I try really hard not to mess with the audio at all, so that the audio is just kind of pristine, and it's just a matter of messing with the lighting. And in other episodes, people have heard me talk about this. But I finally have and you'll notice in a few episodes where my video was a little laggy because I was asking my MacBook to do way too much. And I've resolved that. I have a Mac Studio now, which now means
Beast mode.
The one machine I am most comfortable using is my MacBook, but I wasn't using it for when I have a guest and I want to show something. You know, we do either the Pick 6 game or I want to just bring up something on the internet or show your website. I was using these, I call them the poo-poo laptops. And it frustrates me because I don't use them that much. They're Windows-based and they're terrible. I finally now have my baby, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
That's connected up.
We're all Mac in the office. Is this a subtle plug? Can we get sponsored?
Well, like, I will tell anybody, I'll take it to my grave. Like, if you want to do multimedia, if you want to do anything when it comes to high processing, you use a Mac.
Yeah.
You don't use a Windows machine. I love Windows machines for workflow and, you know, those desktop applications, if you will. But man, if you want to do something like this and do some streaming and some heavy, you know, throw some heavy video or audio at it and graphics and let that churn, it has to be a MacBook.
They do really good on building out for Adobe Creative Suite. They've really simplified and made it in sync with how that software works.
Right.
So that's pretty much why we prefer it.
So this is what we're going to do. I look to your right. This is a map of the world.
There she is. The world.
Look at that. Like, you just look at where you've lived and there's a lot of, it looks hot. Okay. It just looks hot. But let's dial it in here.
Look at that. No green in Dubai.
Yeah.
They've got tons of fake grass. Don't let them fool you.
Now,
it's everywhere.
On the west side, you said you were in like Doha or you were in Qatar.
Yep.
Is that right?
The Brits call it Qatar.
What do you call it? Qatar?
Qatar.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. And I think I've even heard one other pronunciation, and I can't think of it.
It's Alabama. It took me a long time to get used to how Americans say stuff for a while when I first moved back. So.
Well, then, you know, you have is it the United Arab Emiratis or is it the Emirates?
So it's the Emirates, and the locals are called Emiratis.
Emiratis. Okay. So then you don't remember living in Doha that much? Or
I do a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. But like I said, Dubai was the one place that we really settled roots. So that's where I lived most of my childhood.
All right. So over in Dubai, obviously it looks hot. Mm-hmm. But I obviously am one that's very uneducated with, okay, well, what are the seasons like? Or how hot does it really get? How cold does it get?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the climate first.
Well, so...
and is there a significant acclimation process?
I don't know. Alabama right now is pushing it, 110s. But I mean, in Dubai, it got to like 130, 140.
Really?
They joke like... You don't wear thin flip-flops. Like, the flip-flops you wear to Panama City Beach, you do not wear those on the asphalt in Dubai because they will melt.
Really?
Yeah. And so it gets pretty hot in the summer. Dubai has a lot of expats, which means there's a lot of people who don't, that's not their home full time. So they leave during the summer. A lot of them go and travel. And in Dubai, flights are a lot cheaper to go places like Europe and Thailand and stuff like that from Dubai than it is America. So everyone left for the summer. Okay. School's out. Everyone's gone to cooler climates. So it gets really hot in the summer. In the winter, I would say like 40 to 50 degrees. Yeah.
40, 50 degrees. Mm-hmm. Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What kind of activities did you do there? I mean, what you're at school there. Were you playing? Were some of our what we know as American sports played there? Were you playing cricket, which is more of a Australian, New Zealand type thing? I guess they played in India a lot too, right? Cricket.
Dubai is pretty westernized. I played softball at school, and so did my sister. Baseball was pretty much prevalent, so she played baseball mostly growing up there, and then softball kind of transitioned over there. We have American football there now too.
Do we? Okay. In like the high school level or all levels?
High school level.
Okay.
Yeah, they started introducing it like just as I guess like what are those called? Like you just
like a club sport?
Like a club sport. Yeah, they had them as a club sport for a while, and then they kind of got a little bit more popular, and people started playing them in high school. I don't know if it's reached the younger age groups yet.
And what about academics? Is it known to be tougher than in a typical U.S. high school in as far as the academia and how stringent it is?
Yeah. So Dubai, and the school that I went to, is the international baccalaureate program. So it would be considered close to like your AP here in the States, but it was hard. It was so we kind of chose a minor essentially in high school, which you would do in college. So my focus was psychology and art. And so your last 2 years, you focus on those two minors essentially. And they're hard. I mean, but I really, really liked it because it gave me the opportunity to focus a little bit more instead of just doing general studies in your last 2 years of high school. So academics are, pretty tough over there.
And what about language wise? Were you learning another language as well? Was that part of the curriculum?
Yeah. I sucked at it though. I took French for 2 years. We had Spanish offered. You had to take Arabic for at least 1 semester. I don't remember anything from it. My dad's way more versed than I am. But yeah, we had French, Spanish, Arabic. You could take Portuguese if you wanted to.
What about math, science?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have all the same programs and same focuses that you would have here in American schools. They were just tailored a little bit differently. And people joke with me all the time. So in British language, things are spelled a little differently, like color.
Right.
And when I first moved back to the States, I'd still put an E at the end of tomato. I would spell color wrong. And it wasn't because I didn't know how to spell it. It was just because the IB program was still very much prevalent in Europe, and so a lot of it translated to British spellings.
Yeah. All right. So then you are there until you decide to you graduate, and then your family comes back.
No, my mom ships me on a plane back to the States. No, I decided to come back to school in the States. My mom taught overseas for a very long time, and I decided that I kind of wanted to come back, settle roots, and get my education in the States. So we lived in Birmingham for a short period of time when my dad worked for B.L. Harbert. I loved the city. And everyone asked me, why would you move from Dubai to, Birmingham? And again, everyone, when you graduate from Dubai, you don't stay. People go to Canada, they go to Europe. And so I came back to the States for school and went to Montevallo because in Dubai, my school was still pretty small. And I toured a lot of different schools. I just wanted to go somewhere where I could still have more of that one-on-one, conversations with my teachers.
Right. Try to come a little closer.
Oh,
I'll edit this out, but I'm just watching it. I want to make sure it comes out good. Okay. So what drew you to? What other schools did you consider other than Montevallo?
I considered UAB, Samford, Auburn, and Alabama.
So all Alabama schools.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there ever any interest in any other part of the country, or
nope?
Just the time you spent in Alabama, you're like, okay.
Looking back on it, I have no idea why I chose to do that.
Really?
No, I think I had really good memories in Birmingham and kind of wanted to come back to Alabama. It's such a gorgeous state, you know?
It really is. When you drive, I've been to Alabama before, but not, how like it's different when you live here and maybe you're driving somewhere and you're looking for places to do, or you're looking at things with a critical eye versus just kind of visiting like, oh, I'm in and out. And just that drive to Birmingham down 65, and it's like, wow, it's a lot hillier here. There's a lot more rock. We've been able to get out and do some things where there's lots of waterfalls and trails. And
Yeah.
it's gorgeous.
Alabama's a gorgeous state, and in Dubai, you didn't really have a lot of options to go do stuff outdoors. I'm a very outdoorsy person, and we have great hiking trails here. We have great lakes here too. So I think we take a lot of what we have, for granted.
Was it your mom's influence for marketing? So she has that as her professional background, where she did some. When did you decide that this was kind of the path that you wanted to go down? Whether it's there's a creative element to it, of course.
Yep.
But talk to me a little bit about that.
So probably some of it might have been influenced by my mom, just the way that she raised us. She would always, talk about what she did at work. But I think what really stuck it for me was I was always a creative kid. My mom used to sit me at a table with Play-Doh, and I'd sit there for 4 hours just playing with Play-Doh.
Really?
And I love art, even though I don't really get to do painting much nowadays. But I wanted to do something creative and artistic. But when I took psychology as a minor in my high school, I really fell in love with how people are influenced in human behavior. And when I was researching, different outlets that I could go into as far as when I decided, what industry or what am I going to do when I grow up, advertising stuck out to me because I was able to blend both the creative and the strategy together.
Okay. Let's see. So talk to me then talk me through any of the projects that you did at Montevallo. Did that really kind of help solidify your decision?
Yeah. So what really solidified my decision was my professor, Min, who I'm going to drop her name in here. Min Lee was my favorite professor at Montevallo. She pushed us to go to every networking opportunity, get involved with different agencies, doing shadowing opportunities. And so did my parents. My parents started pushing me to intern when I was 16. So when I talk about like how long I've been in this industry for, I've been in this industry since I was 16, and I'm not even going to tell you how long ago that was and put an age on me, but I had those key influences to help me get exposed to what this industry was. And that really just solidified, like, yes, I got to see what other people are doing. And because of my professor, getting to see what other people in real agencies are doing, this is what I want to do.
What kind of projects did you get to do as a 16-year-old in that internship?
Yeah. So I worked at a company called Hair Communications as my first internship, doing kind of grunt work, like file organizing. And I worked on album covers. He liked to give out album covers to clients. So I got to do that, learn how to use an X-Acto knife, not how to cut myself. But that was one of my internship opportunities that led me to the next one. And to the next one, I got to work at Telegraph Creative in Birmingham for a year. And that's when I got to work on really critical projects in my life, because I got real experience with real clients and real creative, and knew how the project managers work and how does that team synergy look like. And so when I look back at like, what was that critical moment of, hey, I understand, how this works and how an agency process is, Telegraph really gave me that exposure.
Okay. And then, what about in college? Was it just the internships where you feel like you really got that experience? What about like any of the class projects?
No, I would just say the internships. Yeah. Okay. We had, Montevallo is a public art school. I had a lot of extracurriculars as far as like painting, drawing, and stuff like that, and public relations. But I would say that the internships were the most defining factor.
So what do you think is your kind of core competence, you as an individual? We'll talk about, we'll get into the company and kind of what you're doing across the board, but what are you known for? What's your strongest skill set in your discipline?
I don't know. That's a great question. I would love other people to let me know. I think, so as a creative, we all have this thing called imposter syndrome. We all think that we don't know what we're doing, right? It's just ingrained in us because we always are searching for a way to do better. So it's really hard for us to give ourselves critical feedback, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I could do better. Or, oh, this sucked. Everything I do, it sucks. So it's really hard when you're talking about like internal reflection and, well, what do I do best? I'm like, I have no idea, you know?
Yeah.
There's always things that I could do better.
Well, what I guess right
It's
now,
my type 3.
what are those things when there's a kind of a review or a peer review of something? Do they come to you like, oh no, you got to run that by Lauren? Not just because you're the boss, but because you're gonna have the best sense of like coloring, color sets you're using, or is it like an audio track or?
No, I think my team just asked me to review things because they're worried I would say it's bad.
Yeah, awesome. So now let's talk about Bold, and I'm going to go back over to the internet.
The internet.
Back to the computer.
The infamous internet.
Yeah, and
leave the hot sandy beach.
I want to talk about the fact that you guys were up for some awards.
Yeah.
The 36th annual Small Business Award winners. And this was a press release. Now I'm going to go over here. This came from the chamber, and the different categories, and then where you show up, which was right that in that second category, Emerging Business of the Year.
Yep.
And I'm just going to go down and look at some of the government contracting. That's kind of my world. So some of these are now really starting to be like, oh, okay, I've met some of those people. This is cool. And then you get down to nonprofit of the year. That's a healthy list.
Yeah, it's a good list. There's Kids to Love, one of our clients.
Yeah, that's Lee Marshall.
Lee Marshall, yeah, she's amazing.
So when you I'm assuming you found out first that you were a nominee, and then you looked at.
Oh yeah,
talk me through that.
We found out that we made a finalist list, but we had no idea if we won or not until at the award ceremony.
Okay,
and so. When I received that email, it was, I started shaking, hands shaking, knees breaking.
But you knew who the other nominees were?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how did that feel? So you find out you're nominated. Then you see the list that we're looking at now of the other companies that were nominated. How did that, talk me through that? Like kind of what that, was it validation? You were just kind of talking about the imposter syndrome, and now you have something where you're like, well, wait a minute, we're actually pretty good at what we do to be compared against these other emerging businesses.
It's really humbling, and there's a lot of good companies on that list, and I know that these awards are vetted through multiple organizations. It's not just the chamber picking these, they facilitate it, but there is a group of people who kind of vet and then award for each category. And it is very humbling to kind of be up there on that roster of other companies and know that, maybe what we're doing is okay.
So now talk me through that night. I don't have any information on where was it held. It was in December, is that right? Was it the month of December?
Yeah, I think so.
Of 21?
I think it was early December.
Right before we moved here. I moved here Christmas Eve.
Ooh.
But tell me about that night, that evening. Was it, formal wear? Where was it?
It was formal wear. So we, our team and I met at the office, to pregame a little bit and hop all in one car to head over there together because,
and you can bring as many as you wanted from your company, or is there a limit?
There is a limit because, I guess there isn't. You just have to pay tickets.
Okay.
So we purchased a table essentially and filled up the table. I think there was like 8 spots. And so we met at the office first, and it was a dark, stormy night. It really was. It was, it's formal wear, and it was at the Von Braun Center.
Okay.
And we got in the car, headed over, and I picked the cutest pair of heels to wear for this night. Obviously got to look good.
What color?
They were snakeskin.
Oh, wow.
I know. But they were classy, okay? They were classy.
Yeah.
And I hadn't worn these particular heels in probably like 2 or 3 years, and I wanted to break them out. And we're walking from the car in the parking lot at the VBC. Again, it's about to rain, so It was humid. And my heels break.
Oh, gosh.
Right on the way over there. And the ceremony was going to start in like 10 minutes, and I'm freaking out. And our marketing coordinator, Kirsten, at the time was like, I have a spare pair of heels in in the office, like in my car. Here's my car keys. So my husband and I book it running back, and I'm barefoot, and it's raining. I'm in a formal outfit and prepared to like potentially walk up on stage in front of all these people. And now I'm sweating and we head back to the car. I'm nervous that I'm going to make it back on time. And I'm putting on her heels, and they're like closed-toed boots, and they're like a little small for me.
Oh no.
And we get back to the table right before the award ceremony starts. And, of course I'm like, all right, now I need a drink. I'm like all sweaty and everything else. So that night already started off nerve-wracking for me.
Wow. So was it in like the North Hall or the South Hall of the Von Braun?
Yeah, I think it was North Hall.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was North Hall.
And there was dinner?
There was dinner.
Wow.
It was great. Yeah. And I think I ate my cheesecake first before dinner, as one should.
Well, every time, this was through the chamber, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've gone to some of those lunches, and you sit down, and I think there's usually like the salad and the dessert are there.
Oh, right next to each other.
They're
it's
ready
like you
to go.
have to choose, and in front of your entire table too. They're like, okay, what is she going to choose first? Is she going to go healthy and have the salad, or is she going to eat her cheesecake?
Have you ever taken like an etiquette class?
Oh gosh, no. I guess my household is an etiquette class because my mom, elbows off the table, forks come in,
My kid, the cotillion, something like that, like the junior cotillion league, and my kids did some etiquette training. My question is, okay, you're not supposed to eat the stuff until everyone sits down, and you're probably supposed to eat the salad first and eat the dessert last, but they will also alternate the dessert.
Yep.
You'll look at it and like, well, my piece of cheesecake is smaller, and then it goes to a bigger piece of cheesecake, which must have come from a different cheesecake altogether, and then it's like a pattern, right? Every other.
Well, there's also because there's different flavors.
And I'm like,
what if I want your flavor?
Can you switch? Because you've already sat down and claimed your seat, but is it okay to just be like, I want the bigger piece of cheesecake?
Hey, if you get to the table first, snooze, you lose. Mm-hmm.
Actually, after one event I went to, there was a guy who just ate all of it, because a lot of people don't eat dessert, right? We're all on a diet or whatever, or they don't like sugar, and this guy ate 5 pieces of cheesecake. For all those at our table who didn't, he was just in hog heaven.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, he was tearing.
See, now that gives me heartburn, but go for him. Good for him.
Hey, no shame in his game.
No shame,
right?
Mm-mm.
He jumped right into it.
Yeah.
Let's go over to your website now. I'm gonna go back to, and talk me through this. Any parts of the thing you would like to highlight?
Yeah, so we call ourselves a strategic creative agency.
Mm-hmm.
We're a whole bunch of left and right brained people. I'm a very creative person, or else I like to think I am. People tell me I am, but I'm very much a fan of process. And I think process is what makes us as a company stand out from others, is that we're very thorough. I don't like to leave anything unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And especially since what we do is a lot of people outsource for creative, we do it in-house. So we offer both creative and strategy for marketing campaigns, web design and development, or full branding packages.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So as I scroll down through here, that's you with the mask on?
That is Huntsville Sports Commission represent.
It's funny, like during COVID, if I only had met you with the mask, and if you had taken it off, I probably couldn't recognize you.
There are still clients I haven't met in person yet.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And then someone takes the mask off, like, I just had a different impression
like
of what your lower nose and your mouth look like.
Yep. So our process.
Okay.
That's my favorite part.
And there's your teal.
There's my teal.
Right.
It's my fave. Yeah, and then our values are, because of the reason why we were founded, in my experience, our values aren't something that I take very lightly.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect our team to follow it every, time that I have an interaction with a client or my team members. I try and remember those too. So our values are pretty ingrained in our DNA.
I liked at the actually right here where it says just hi at the Bold Agency. I kind of like that. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Really?
You see a lot of info at or help. I don't think I've ever seen hi.
Hi. Yeah, we try and leave it as personal as possible. We're not a huge 80-person company. We like to put a personal touch on everything. We're a little bit rebellious. We like to work with companies who are a little bit rebellious as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So now describe how you constructed your staff. Let's talk about that sequence. In a minute here, I want to show a video that you guys did. I think it was pretty cool, but So it's 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now talk through that as you kind of built your team, and then we'll get at that final number. But if you can just kind of talk me through kind of who your key managers are, your key creators. I'm sure you have some younger folks that are learning and developing.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about your staff.
Yeah. So when we first started, obviously it was just me. 6 months later, we hired our first part-time person who ended up being our full-time after a year, our graphic designer, Rob Clark, who's our web developer. He's amazing. And then we have a network of external contractors that we use as well. But they're very close. They're basically our family. And so there's 6 of us in the office who are all Bold employees, including our marketing coordinator, graphic designer, web designer, and developer, and then another graphic designer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And our account coordinator. Sorry, Sarah.
And how has that worked as far as you recruiting them? Is it are they all at like UAH? Or how far do you have to extend that net to pull in the talent you wanted?
Mm-hmm. So one of our graphic designers who actually transitioned a few weeks ago, she works at another company, but I met her through Design Week Huntsville. And our junior graphic designer who just started with us a few weeks ago, I met her through Design Week Huntsville as well. And then they're both UAH students. We try and network really closely with UAH. I love, Justin Clay and Keith over there. We try and keep a really good relationship and mentor program through the universities, which is how I met those 2 particular graphic designers. Mm-hmm. And our account coordinator also went to UAH.
So talk to me about Design Week. I've never heard of this, and what do you have to contribute towards that as the Bold agency, or is that just you as an individual?
So Design Week Huntsville was founded in 2019 with me and my co-founder Amber Cornett. She lives in Colorado now. I try not to hate on her too much about that. But we started it because we were tired of traveling to Nashville for their Design Week. And so it was established and is organized through a committee of just volunteers. And those can include different companies or just individuals like freelancers who help us out. It's funded by Bold Agency, but it's also strongly funded by our sponsors.
Now, is it just a week out of the year, or it's something you do every week?
It's a week out of the year. Oh my gosh, I would. Yeah, I don't know if I could do that. And so we're actually shortening it next year.
So what does it entail?
So it is a 5-day long multifaceted event series, which includes workshops, inspirational speakers, networking events. So we usually have like 3 events every day, Monday through Friday. And then we have our closing party at the camp every year.
Okay. And what's the number of participation wise, number of individuals you get at that week?
It depends. So our first year was, it was coordinated and planned in 30 days. So we didn't have a lot of time, and it was a brand new event series, right? And Huntsville's used to all these tech startup events, but not really ones that are design focused. And for Design Week, it's not just graphic design. It's interior design, industrial design, fashion design, any type of industry that falls under the design category. And so our first year was, again, planned and organized in 30 days. Our second year was almost during COVID. Well, not almost. It was like in the highlight of COVID. So it was hard. And then this third year was a really good, it was our third year. We have like 50 to 60 participants who show up at every event. It just varies depending on the location, up to like 70. Mm-hmm.
Is there any like podcast or, stuff like that I do, events?
Not yet, but maybe next year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would be fun. I'm going to think about it. I do want to reach out to the community. And I've met some other people like through the Rocket City app and other ones that have created that.
Yeah, Clark and them are great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, for Design Week, it's up to 3 events every single day. So participation varies. Our 4th year will be next April.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now I want to show the video that I found that I think you guys did. It's kind of an 80s theme.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I show that?
Absolutely.
All right. And I had to do a little magic to make this happen. So for you and I to hear the audio.
Okay.
So we'll switch
Ready
over.
for magic.
And just a couple. This is the problem when you're the one-man band. All right. Might be a little bit of feedback, but let me see if we can get this to go.
There's our little family.
That is on so many levels very cool.
Yeah, so that was a concept by Phil Woodall. So in our spot, we split the space for about 2 years. It was the Bold Agency and the Library of was basically, we were neighbors, roommates for, you would say, for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was great sharing the space with them for a while. They're absolutely amazing people. And they actually moved out into a bigger studio space, but we still have lunch on the regular.
So unfortunately for those who are going to only consume this via audio, you're going to have to watch the video.
Oh, it's great. It is great. It was so much fun to film.
We have we have it on Spotify and video, and of course YouTube as well. But the 80s, it really kind of felt like an opening to a sitcom.
Oh yeah, it's very much Fuller House.
How did you find that? Did you get through like I belong to Epidemic Sound, which is just a big sound database. I'm assuming you guys have a subscription and just kind of poured through audio tracks until you found the right one?
You'll have to interview Phil for that question.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was hilarious because Reese Mitchell, who's in that video, he's got, that 80s curly hair and it fit in perfectly. But yeah, it's a representation of, our characteristics as team members.
It was classic to see the look on everyone's faces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
some we had a lot of fun filming that.
Some people are maybe more, you could tell maybe they could be an actor or actress with some practice.
Oh yeah.
And then there's other people
Not
who
me.
it's totally a little bit artificial, right?
Yeah, there was, I think
when
I
they're on
had
camera.
like 6 or 7 takes because I just could not stop laughing.
All right, I want to play the quicks. I want to play the pick 6 with you.
Okay.
And
I'm ready.
And the reason I want to do it now and sooner than I normally would is it will most likely help us with the rest of the interview.
Okay.
And things that we talk about. Because as I've mentioned before on other episodes with guests, the point of long form is to get to know a lot more about Lauren. I'm hoping and assuming that as you continue your career here in Huntsville and the Bold Agency, you're going to be interviewed several times. Most of those will probably be in print media as you win awards, and that's good. You'll get some sound bites in there. You'll get some clips and based on quotes that you make. But the purpose of this is for us to really kind of peel back the onion and the layers of who Lauren is, right, and what her interests are that you might otherwise not know unless they know you really closely.
Yeah, how much they want to know.
So luckily, we have my MacBook friend here that's going to help us with this. All right, so we're going to play the pick 6.
Okay.
And I think there's actually a few more pictures than 6. But it sounds good. Just like when I do the quick 6, it doesn't mean that I want people to answer them quickly. It just sounds cool.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. That's
you ready to play?
Brandon, yeah.
Okay, here is the first picture.
Do I say a word off of this?
Yeah. So it can either be a word or a phrase. And I picked these on purpose because they have some connection to you. Mm-hmm. But we can go for a one word, and then otherwise any commentary you want to provide.
Memory.
This is Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you've been to this particular location, but tell me about the memory. Why did you choose that word?
Thailand is one of my favorite places. It is my favorite place to travel to. I'm absolutely in love with their culture, their food, of course. And when you travel there, it's absolutely gorgeous. And the people are so welcoming. And I always wanted to go there. And so when I graduated high school, my family took me to Thailand, and they probably had to leash me to the plane because I didn't want to leave. Could have stayed there forever.
I actually had Thai food today.
Oh, so good.
And I sat down with my buddy, and the server came over, and I literally had been seated for maybe 2 or 3 seconds. And she's like, "Do you know what you want to order?" And I'm like, "Yeah, chicken pad Thai." I never vary from that at a Thai restaurant.
Yeah, it's a good basic. People who are hesitant on trying international food or too spicy food, I'm like, the pad Thai's,
yeah,
it's that first step into the door.
So let me ask this before we go back to it. And this is the same thing. The buddy John Dubois, shout out to him from Tech Systems. He lived in China for like 7 years.
Oh wow.
And so what we talked about a little bit at lunch was, well, how different is Chinese food when you're in China?
Yeah.
Right. And his comment was, it's much more, it's a lot more spice and aromatic and much more flavor, right? And the spice would probably knock you off your feet.
Probably
but
fresher too.
Now, what about Thai food? How does that vary when you're over in Thailand versus what we eat here?
Well, food overseas isn't heavily, it doesn't have a lot of preservatives in it. It's not heavily salted either like we have here. So it's much more fresh when you get it from from the country that it's from versus here. I think they kind of dull the flavors out a little bit just to pacify us American palates.
What about just something as simple as rice? Is it still different there in Thailand?
No, you can get really good basmati rice here.
Okay.
Especially in Huntsville. We have great Asian markets here.
All right, we're going to go back. You ready for the next one?
I'm ready. Oh. Baby.
Now, this isn't your dog.
No.
But this is
my dog's a lot more gray. A little older. A little
this is a little Yorkie?
Yeah, a little Yorkie.
And his name is Damon?
Damon.
Is that right?
Yep. I was obsessed with the Vampire Diaries in college. And for some reason picked that name as my first dog's name. And when I moved to the States, I was by myself. My parents were overseas. My sister was overseas. My nearest relative was in Missouri. And so I needed a companion and convinced my mom after a lot of begging to let me have a dog. And got a little Yorkie from North Birmingham. Wasn't sketch at all.
And he's I think you said he's 11 years old now?
He's right? 11 years old. He is a grump pot.
Is his health good? Is he doing well?
Yeah, he's doing good. Yeah, he started having a collapsing trachea. For anyone who has small dogs out there, just know, put your dog on a harness, not a collar when you walk them, because slowly over time it starts collapsing their throat here. And so if he gets a little worked up, which he does frequently, when he's playing, he'll start coughing. But other than that, the doctors say that he's a pretty feisty old man.
Okay, next picture. You ready?
Yep.
I honestly can't even remember what order I have these in.
It's another good one from Thailand.
It's like when I stumped Clayton, I did this game, and it's hard to not just use beautiful all the time, right?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, the word that came to my mind was Leonardo.
Really?
DiCaprio, because he filmed the movie, or he was in the movie The Beach, which was filmed in Thailand. And we went to that beach. And I actually saw, rock formations like that in Thailand are off the coast in Phuket. That's where we went. So we didn't go to Bangkok. We went to Phuket. And the beach became basically a tourism spot. Everybody wanted to go there to see, where did Leo film The Beach? And it was so crowded. Yeah. So crowded. But the water there, I think that's why turquoise is my favorite color, just because of the ocean water around there.
So is this pretty accurate, this photo?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's gorgeous there.
All right, next one. Uh-oh. Trying to slide here. There we go.
See, I just want to use the same word over and over again. It's just favorite. Delicious.
It's a margarita.
It's a margarita. Yes. I'm a big margarita fan. Big margarita girl. Love it.
When did that start?
Do I want to say safely 21?
Safely. It started when you were 21, yeah.
Safely when I was 21 years old.
Good answer. Yeah. What is the drinking age over in Dubai or in
It's 21.
21. Okay. All right, next one.
Love.
So this is a picture of a wakeboarder.
Good form.
Now, talk to me. You said every weekend you guys are on the lake, or as often as you can.
Every weekend. Yeah, we are on the lake. So I don't know how far off into the weeds you want me to get. I might say that okay.
It's your episode.
It's my episode. Oh gosh. So my husband and I actually met through wakeboarding. He was a salesperson in Academy Sports and Outdoors down in Chelsea, Alabama. And I met him because I just moved back to the States and I learned how to wakeboard. Learn is a, soft word because it was pretty new at it in Dubai and through a couple of my friends. And when I moved back to the States, I wanted to, still do things that I was familiar with, obviously, as coming back to the States was like going to a third world country.
Sure.
And so we were in Academy. I can't even remember what my mom and me were picking up, but I had just looked over in the corner of my eye and I saw a whole bunch of wakeboards on the rack. I'm like, what? There's wakeboarding in Alabama? And my husband just happened to be the salesperson in the aisle that day. And he's selling me this wakeboard. He's like, oh, yeah. Me and my cousins, we wakeboard on Smith Lake all the time. And I was like, oh, cool. Can I come?
Yeah.
Can I just invite myself? I was like, can I have your number? Because I want to go. And so that was kind of how we fell in love. I joke, it's what keeps our marriage together because we wakeboard every single weekend. It's something that we share both passionately.
So you have a wake boat?
We do. We have a baby wake boat. So during COVID, when everyone else decided to buy a wakeboard boat, we don't have, the ideal G23 Paragon, which, also I would be sponsored, by an Aeronautic. But we have an old school Malibu, but it does good for what we need. And yeah, during 2019 is when we decided to go ahead and do that because no one else was, there was nothing else to do. So might as well do something outdoors.
We're actually going down to Smith Lake this weekend for the first time.
Same. I will be there this weekend. Yep. And the weekend after that.
Do you have a lot of friends who go down and family that join you?
So actually, my sister is getting her white coat this Friday. She's in PA school at UAB. And so my parents and my grandfather are coming into town and then they're coming with us to Smith Lake. So my husband's parents actually have a house on Smith Lake. When it was built, it was built by his dad and his grandfather back in the 60s.
Wow.
So there's still a different color shag carpet in every single room. I joke around, like, if you don't know where you are walking around the middle of the night, just, feel around on the shag and you'll figure out where you are.
So have you progressed to a pretty advanced rider?
So we lost, I don't say we lost access. We stopped wakeboarding for about 6 years.
Really?
Yeah. So starting back what feels like from scratch, but progressing pretty well. So one of our graphic designers at Bold Agency does a lot of wakeboarding events. He sponsored and ran, he's gonna kill me. I forget the name. Anyway, it was at Smith Lake and a couple other wakeboarding events in Guntersville, and he just recently got a wakeboard boat, and so we've been wakeboarding with him, and he actually teaches wakeboarding classes. It's called Wake Factory, and him and I have been working on. He was pretty proud of me this weekend.
That's cool.
Yep.
Are there any, for lack of a better term, like wake parks where it's basically a cabling system?
Yeah,
have you seen those? Yeah. Did they have those in Alabama?
We do, surprisingly. So there's one at Oak Mountain.
Okay.
There is a cable park in Oak Mountain. There's one down in South Alabama. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. But the one at Oak Mountain does really, really well. Flip side.
I think that's just genius in a way.
Oh, it's great. So I actually learned on cable parks because we had one in Abu Dhabi. And so my friend and I would drive 2 hours from Dubai to Abu Dhabi to go wakeboarding and then drive all the way back. And so I learned on a cable park system. And then when I moved to Alabama, I think that's what shocked me the most about seeing a wakeboard down the aisle. I had no idea we had cable parks. And back then we didn't. So flip side's only maybe like 5 or 6 years old. It's not, it's relatively new, but we have a really good wakeboarding community on Smith Lake as well.
So if anyone who has never heard of a cable park, can you describe it?
So it's a winch system. So you get a handle just like you would have behind a boat, and it pulleys you across kind of in this little loop formation around different obstacles. So you can go off these things called kickers. It's really cool. A lot of people are hesitant about the sport because it does a good number on your body. So
yeah, it'd be like if someone's used to like a J bar or like if you've gone skiing. Yeah. It's essentially that's flattened out. Like your lift is pulling you. But is there something creating the wake in front of you?
So in a cable park, you don't have a wake. So that's why you have all those obstacles like the kickers to do jumps off of versus like behind a boat where you do have a wake.
I've got to check that out.
It's great.
I'm not sure how soon we'll have access to a boat, and that would be, I like to wakeboard.
Well, boats are stupid expensive now. We're really happy we got ours when we did, but we kind of thought, well, maybe we should have spent a little bit more because now, boats are more expensive than houses. I think the Paragon G23 is about $300,000 starting.
Is it really?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you look at some boats and you're like, oh my gosh. And they're so cool looking.
Yep. Oh, they're so pretty.
There's a lot of nice boats that
so
don't look necessarily cool. A wakeboard boat looks cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you don't just have the wakeboard boat.
No, you got the speakers.
You have the speakers, and then you have to have the truck to pull it, and then you have to have the garage, and then you have to pay for gas. So
use someone else's boat, right?
Okay. That's a great advice.
You ready for the next picture?
Yep. Hyper.
Now, this is your other breed.
That's my
This
other
is
baby.
an Australian Shepherd.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Tell us about, is it Nola?
Nala.
Nala?
Nala. So, Nala is the 4-year-old Australian Shepherd. So my husband always wanted a Frisbee dog, and he got a Frisbee dog.
Okay.
She's extremely hyper, and she's so smart. Like, I've never had a dog that looks you in the eyes, that really, when you're talking to them, really, really looks you in the eyes. It's freaky. So she's really, really loyal. She's such a great dog. And of course, I have chronic allergies, allergic to everything, but so worth it.
You're allergic to dogs?
Yeah, I'm allergic to dogs.
And did that manifest itself right away when you had Damon?
No. So Damon's pretty much hypoallergenic.
Okay.
Yeah, but I really look how cute they are.
And where did that name came from? Nala.
Nala is from The Lion King. It's my favorite movie growing up as a kid. And she is a princess.
I should have known that. I was gonna when you sent that to me, I was like, I should do a little quick search on Nala, and I didn't.
Well, for Australians also always have cool names.
Yeah.
Like her dad's name was like Astro or something. They always have really cool names. So there's a lot of pressure to name an Australian Shepherd because they're just cool dogs.
Well, you know what cartoon had a dog named Astro, right?
Yeah.
It predates you, probably the Jetsons.
Jetsons, yeah.
Yeah.
I watched the Jetsons.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to remember when that stuff was in reruns. I think it was in reruns even when I was a kid. Here you go. Now, I believe this is in Mexico.
I was almost going to say Sri Lanka. I was like, is this one of the pictures my mom took? Because it's all blurry.
No, I just, this one's a little blurry. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to find something where you have, this is the ultimate vacation, right?
It is
where
the
you're
ultimate
like, okay,
vacation.
I see this little cove or this little harbor. I've got my hammock.
Serenity. I would say serenity. It's hard when you run a business to have those moments like that.
Yeah.
And, people who are able to go on vacations like that, they really don't know how much they take that for granted. And anytime that my husband and I are able to step away for a little bit, I really try and absorb every minute. Mm-hmm.
Does it take you a few days to kind of get into vacation mode and just to really unwind and detach?
So I had my first detached vacation in May.
Really?
It's the first time that I had, well, actually my team's going to call BS on me because I still accessed emails when I was on my vacation. But, when you're starting a business, everything's kind of weighs on you and you want to make sure things are done correctly. And I'm very passionate about our clients, so I want to make sure we do right by them. And so we went on a cruise. I love cruising. Yeah. It's like, it's like being in a taxi, but with drinks and a full, full food service. And that was my first detached vacation. And it's kind of embarrassing. So we drove all the way down to Orlando to get on the cruise ship. And I am putting together a TikTok for a client in the car, like in the parking garage at the cruise ship. And I'm telling my husband, I'm like, I have got to get this finished and published so it's out there. And as soon as I hit send and he was like, okay, we need to go now, on this trip, I had a panic attack. I was so nervous, like full body shakes, like could not stand up. It was like airbag moment. It was nerve-wracking to me to be disconnected. Yeah. So I'm working on that.
And that's tough on a cruise because a lot of times unless you pay some obscene amount of money, you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah. So I did do that for 2 days. I did pay for Wi-Fi just to catch up on a couple of things because it's also hard when you're disconnected and you're gone for, our cruise was 8 days long. I didn't want to come back to 200 unread emails. I leave work at the end of every day with only 10 unread emails. It's kind of my rule.
So you left out of Port Canaveral?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go? Like South Caribbean? Western Caribbean?
We went to, I love traveling around the Caribbean. So we went to the Bahamas. We went to Coco Cay. We went on a Royal Caribbean cruise. And so they own Coco Cay. And then we went to Bermuda, which was the first time I've ever been to Bermuda. And I've never traveled somewhere new and gotten there and felt like it was home immediately.
Really?
It was the weirdest experience ever. And I even told my husband, I was like, this feels like home, right? It feels very homey. So we got on a little Vespa and traveled through the island, and it was fantastic, which also I didn't know that my husband didn't know how to drive a Vespa until we were on the Vespa. So that was exciting. And they drive on the opposite side of the road.
So you must have been at sea for a while to get to Bermuda.
Yeah, we were 2 days. Yeah. 2 days at sea traveling.
That's pretty cool.
A long time.
I've always wanted. We've done a lot in the Caribbean, however you want to pronounce it. But I've never done Bermuda.
Bermuda, it's expensive to get to. Mm-hmm. And I think they have this thing called Billionaires Row in Bermuda, where that guy who owns, what's that? Virgin Airlines.
Oh, Richard Branson.
Richard Branson has a house on there. And they have tours that you can do of Billionaires Row. You can spend money to go look at other people with money on this cruise, which is ridiculous. But the food and stuff is fantastic. The views, it was gorgeous. And the history. I'm kind of a history nerd. I'm obsessed with just going to a certain place or a country and kind of learning about the history of that town. And so Bermuda was actually one of the only stops that people really had before they reached the Americas. So it was actually huge with rum smuggling. They had a lot of rum smuggling through Bermuda. So that was really fascinating.
A lot of pirates. Through there.
So Bermuda, I know that there's a big myth around, the Bermuda Triangle, and it's because there's a reef system that goes around Bermuda. It's really, really shallow, but it's gorgeous to snorkel at. And so they have 350 shipwrecks, I think, around Bermuda. Yeah, it's really cool.
We went on a cruise, and I remember, I think, was it Barbados? The thing that's interesting is, you were just kind of, there's the ultra rich, and then there's just the obscenely poor, right? And there's no in between. There's no in between.
Yeah, and we have that in Dubai. It's called classism, where you see the opposite spectrums, where it's either really, really poor or really, really rich.
Yeah, and I think Barbados, it wasn't like that. It seemed like of all the places we went on a Royal Caribbean type cruise, and we did Coco Cay and worked our way down, and I think Barbados had more industry, and there wasn't necessarily people begging. Because
I have to put that on my list.
There was a time we went out of Puerto Rico, and the hurricane had come through, and it was like the first cruise that had left from Puerto Rico as they were trying to rebuild. And then of course St. Martin and St. Vincent got wiped out, and those those poor people.
Beautiful places, but man, you see some poverty in those areas. And just because you're there to look at all the beauty, and then you realize there's communities here, and it's hard.
Now, we're not playing the quick six, but I was going to ask you that question of, if you go on a vacation, do you want to do a all-inclusive resort or a cruise?
I like cruising because I like to go to multiple places. I think that cruising also allows you to kind of get the feel for a spot before you spend an entire week there. Mm-hmm. So we even joke that we're going to go back to Bermuda now that we kind of know what it's like, get an Airbnb. But it was so funny. So you asked me before we got on this podcast what was my bucket list.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I don't really have a bucket list, but I do.
Okay.
So my bucket list is to snorkel every Great Barrier Reef before I die. Yeah, so I'll leave Australia last just in case I get eaten by a great white shark. So,
do you have any interest in scuba diving, or just keep it as snorkeling?
It's just snorkeling.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
This is so metaphorical, but I don't want to be constrained, you know, by all the equipment you have to have. And
I feel the same way with like surfing. I've never really surfed, but it's like, well, I don't want to be in the frigid water either, but I want to feel the water. The same thing with like, I'd rather not kayak. I'd rather just be in the water. Out of the kayak.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when
We're
you
fish
snorkel,
people.
you're just in your swimsuit and you feel refreshed all the time versus scuba where, all right,
Yeah.
am I going to die down here? I'm just going to be that guy where my regulator breaks or something. And I'm going to.
But yeah, there's enough deep water movies to freak you out. But I mean, my grandfather was in the Navy. And so he was, you know, kind of made me fall in love with the ocean at a really, really young age. You know, we would go snorkeling in Key West. And so I love to snorkel. I love to be in the ocean. I'm a fish. I should be a fish.
Did you ever go west of Key West out to Fort Jefferson?
No.
As I'm trying to think if there's another, Dry Tortugas.
Oh, I need to go.
Oh
I have heard.
You have to go.
There's so many gorgeous places to go. I
You
need
have
more
to go.
time. I
It's
need
70
to take more time off work.
You get on a ferry. It's 70 miles west. You can actually camp out there if you want. It's primitive camping. But there's there's one ferry out each day and one ferry back.
That's awesome. Primitive camping doesn't scare me, so I'd be down for that.
It is, you got to do it.
Gorgeous.
If you're going to get down to Key West again, just get on that ferry. Now, plan it in advance. I think they sell out months and months in advance, but you got to get out to Dry Tortuga.
I went to Key West one other time, other than when I went with my grandfather and my grandmother, and we were on a cruise. They dropped us off at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
The cruise left at 12
in
the afternoon. Nothing's open in Key West that early. Like, there's literally all those signs that say we're not coming in because we're fishing, you know?
Yeah.
So we didn't really get to experience a lot, but I would much rather go down there and go to those islands and stay for a bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to get into before I can talk to you all night.
Yeah, I know. And I love sharing stories. I don't think so. I just really appreciate, you know, having this opportunity and having, you know, get to share a little bit. Anything you want to talk about with some of the projects and the customers and your clients now that's going on that you can talk about? Ooh, we have a great list of clients. I absolutely, like I said, I absolutely adore our clients. We get to work with, food and beverage clients like Straight to Ale, the Brewers Co-op, which is great because I'm a foodie and so love taking photos of food and then eating the food. But we also get to work with clients like Toyota, which I'll actually be at tomorrow at 6 a.m.
Wow.
See you then. And so I love seeing the work that our clients do. You hear a lot right now with Huntsville Sports Commission. They're bringing in so many great sporting events and everything that's developing at John Hunt Park. And we work really closely with the city of Huntsville. Absolutely adore them. And so I'm really, really thankful for not only our rock star team, but also that we get to work with such amazing clients.
So with the Huntsville Sports Commission, it's the Nashville Soccer Club, which is the MLS team, right? And now they're the feeder league, MLS Next, is coming to Huntsville.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Let me ask you this. Do you know if they are they going to do a contest like they did with the Trash Pandas on naming the team, or are they already going to take care of that?
Just let us do it. That I always wanted to brand a sports team. That's a big one on my list. That and do a video of wakeboarding.
Okay.
By a wakeboard company. Like those are probably on my top two.
So you don't want the community to be able to pick. You're just saying
I think
leave it up to the company they've hired for their marketing and promotion.
Well, we can get into touchy subjects with that one, you know. Let's not talk about Flo and Florence. But I think that the community's input when it's something of that magnitude is really important, but it has to be guided. It can't just be all open because creative is subjective. What I like, you might not like, and versus another person sitting, you know, and so you have to be able to tailor critical feedback like that and help guide it in a good direction. And not everyone's going to be happy with the result. That's just the way it works. You know, it was that shirt. I don't make everyone happy. I'm not pizza. But I think that there's a balance to it.
Yeah. How often do you have customers that are I was talking, I think last week with Carl about color choice and staying away from Alabama Crimson Red and or Auburn.
You have to stay away from football colors in general, right? Like we showed a logo once and they're like, I think that's the Green Bay Packers colors. I'm like,
is that kind of why you just chose white and black?
Oh, maybe.
Just to kind of steer away from all of that?
Football colors. Yeah. Well, I'm used to, football was, with your feet where I'm from. It's not with your hands, but football. But I think, the NFL and football teams kind of made it harder on us graphic designers because, they color combo everything. And so everything's going to look similar to some kind of national sports team.
Well, it's always hard. Like even in my logo, it's not really like right above your head. We can't see this on camera. The red is very red.
Yeah.
But the one that's behind me here is much more of a darker maroon, which is kind of what I wanted.
Okay.
But even if you give someone the RGB, it's just a matter how that comes out in the print or online. And it's like...
Well, we work really closely. We have a select group of vendors we work with in Huntsville. And every logo that we design, we give our clients brand guidelines on to help them understand, like, if it's going digital, here's how you format these colors. If it's being printed, here's how you format this.
Yeah.
So we try and be as thorough as possible because different printers print different colors. Like, your logo can print differently on an HP printer versus another brand,
Yeah.
And so those variations we have to take account for. And a lot of it too, like you guys might not see this, but there's like a blue reflection on that sign back there. So even like how things are going to be paired together, you could have one color paired against another one and it looks different. And as soon as I pull it away, it's going to look like a different color.
Yeah. Lauren, it's been a pleasure to have you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It goes back to when Tori was interviewing me, she was asking kind of, hey, what's next? I'm like, I just take it week by week, guest by guest. And
That's
I
what
hope
we do
that
every day.
My hope is that you come in and now you've experienced it and you're going to think to yourself, hey, that was kind of fun. That was cool.
This was fun.
And who I would recommend so-and-so to come on.
Yep.
Right. And, certainly I want to be known as a high quality, fun podcast and a good experience for you that helps, no matter what, promote your business.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
And,
vice versa.
And then Huntsville is so, we're kind of so very communal right? Where everyone really, there's so much that can go around. There's so much success. We can all, there's tons of work. There's tons of business, right? In a way for everyone. And so I certainly hope that that's been the same experience for you.
Absolutely.
And, certainly I want to get into the thousands of episodes, and we're at episode 19.
Which is, my birthday is May 19th. So
is it really?
A lucky number episode.
There you go.
There we go.
All right, Lauren.
Appreciate it.
Hey, have a good one and be safe.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. All right.
Oh.
What'd you